Okay, good morning. We'll call this meeting to order. The Education Committee of the Kansas State Board of Nursing. To get started, we do have a quorum. And is Debbie Pyle online for us? Debbie,
She's planning to be, but I don't see her yet.
I see her.
Here she comes.
Okay, wonderful. So we got the whole committee here. So thank you. We will start with a review of our on-site packet. We have two additions to the on-site packet. If it's okay with the committee, since the Donley report is under one of our site visits, to move that discussion to that time, the letter that was received. Right. Okay, and then the LMHT task force, there's a report in there, and that is under our unfinished business. If we agree, we will just discuss that at that time. Okay, any additions or revisions to the agenda? Any announcements today? Okay, then we will move to the approval of the December 10th, 2024 minutes.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the December 10th, 2024 Education Committee minutes. That's right.
Thank you, Michelle. Do we have a second?
A second, that's not Terry.
Okay, Michelle. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
Any opposed? Abstention? That motion will carry. Next up are our staff reports. Our nursing education staff report. Do that.
The staff report is under the consent agenda. So if you want me to do something separate from that, otherwise it just stands as written. I don't have anything to add to it. So unless there are questions about the report, I would be glad to stand for those, but otherwise I think it can be just all approved under that consent agenda.
Okay, and that is on page 11 of our report. The 2025 site visit is also included under the consent. The petition summary and the draft regulations from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regulations that we reviewed.
And those are the last of the ones we had to review for. So you guys have done.
Yeah. We weren't the first committee to get.
No, we were, but
had a lot.
we were the second highest in numbers, so we did a good job.
Okay, so if there's no discussion over any of the consent agenda items, I would be happy to have a motion.
Can do that. I move to approve the consent item agenda, which includes nursing education staff report, 2025 site visit schedule, petition summary 11/16/24 through 2/21/25, draft regulation review approval AAR 60-17-106, 60-17-107, 60-17-108, 60-17-109, 60-17-110, and 60-17-111.
Thanks, Michelle.
I second.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Okay, so that motion is carried. Okay, on to our site visit reports, which start on page 21. Okay, we'll talk louder. Sorry. We know this room that becomes an issue and we've talked about it. We cannot do microphones because of Zoom, so we'll just try to talk louder so that everyone can hear what we're saying. So thanks for
Hands in the back if we start going down in volume again.
Okay, so we are on page 21 of our packet, and we're ready to start with our approval of the site visits. And do we have someone here from Washburn? Yes.
So Karen Kidder and I went to Washburn Tech. They had, reminder that they had the initial application for an ADN program. So we went to do that visit, and that's what this report is. both Karen and I are here today if there are any questions, but Pam is also as well. And do you want to introduce yourself?
Sandy Siebert. I'm the director at Washburn Tech University.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming. So the committee can read over the report. The recommendations are on page 28. Thank you. Yes, anything you would like to share with us?
Yes, under opportunities, we made a change there, and so our students that had their PN that already took the T's exam, we changed our score to match that, so they don't have to retake anything.
Nice.
Otherwise, I think, yeah, no other recommendations.
Okay. So the recommendation was initial approval of the program with permission to admit 60 students annually, with 30 in August and 30 in January, and then a follow-up visit before the first graduation. I'm sorry, after. Sorry.
It's confusing.
Any questions?
No questions.
Okay, I'd be happy to entertain. Thank you, Angela.
I move to accept the initial site visit report with recommendations for Washburn Tech ADN program with a follow-up site visit to be done after the first graduation.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Abstention? Thank you. The motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Okay, next up is the Hutchinson Community College ADN reapproval. Allison, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Anything you would like to share with us?
Just related to the systematic program evaluation, we started working on doing our updates for that and collaborating with other directors. I don't see any problem with meeting that deadline of September 1st.
I think, I would also just add on the recommendations. We did have a couple of clinical contracts that we were concerned with. Those were taken care of the next day. Yeah, we can got that. So number one is already taken care of.
Unfortunately, yes, we had uploaded the ones without the signature.
I
They
know.
were signed at the time.
Right, they knew they had them, we just didn't let them the day they were there, so we got them the next day and all as well. But, and then she spoke to the evaluation plan, so.
Any other questions for Allison? Be happy to entertain a motion.
I move to accept the reapproval site visit report with recommendations for Hutchinson Community College ADM program for the time period of national accreditation.
Thank you, Ruth.
Michelle Terry, I'll second.
Okay, Michelle. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Abstention? The motion carries. Thank you, Alice. Thank you. Okay. Don, or, yeah,
And you have the PN.
I'm sorry, Allison, are you here for the PN program as well?
I believe that we were supposed to have somebody on Zoom for that one.
Okay,
Janice.
Is
Berger.
Janice Yoder on Zoom, Colton?
Looks like she is. Might need to move her over.
we'll move her over.
I'm sorry, I didn't. She probably told me.
And the recommendations for the PN start on page 51. There's Janice, I believe. Yes. Janice, anything additional you'd like to share with the committee?
Janice, if you're there, you're muted. There she is.
Okay. The only thing I have is that we have started working on the recommendations and our reevaluation and everything, and I do not see any problem of meeting the deadline there of September 1st.
Excellent. That really was the only recommendation.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I move to accept the approval site visit with recommendations for Hutchinson Community College PM program for 5 years.
Thank you, Karen.
Also,
Thank you, Michelle. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying yes.
yes.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Okay, next up, we have Donley College visit. Do we have, yes, we have representation. Thanks. We also have the on-site packet letter from Donley. Yes, if you guys want to discuss that as well. We'll start by letting you introduce yourselves.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for having us here today. My name is Lauren Fish. I'm the Director of Nursing, new Director of Nursing at Donley College. And I'm excited to share with you some of the opportunities for growth that you have identified and that we're responding to. So.
Good morning, my name is Ana Maradiaga and I'm the Dean of Donley College.
Monsignor Stuart Swetland, I'm president of Donley College.
Thank you for coming, Monsignor. Okay. If you would like to start by talking about some of the recommendations and then the letter also.
Absolutely. I will start out by saying that we are actively engaged in actions to resolve and improve all of the areas of recommendation that KSPN has made to us. And I can go through each one if you want. Obviously, the organizational chart is easy to update. The FQRs, we made significant progress on that. We definitely had some issues with getting students to clinicals originally. We had started with clinical students. A lot of the students weren't familiar with it, and so it was very difficult for them. And we didn't have the on-site support at that time to help them through that as much, and we have actively changed that. We have hired an admission intake advisor, academic advisor, and Charity Reich, and she is wonderful with the students. So we have though been able to achieve, we have a spreadsheet of the students that have attended clinicals, how many days they've attended clinicals, those that have missed. And primarily, for the most part, I don't have exact numbers. Anna can get that to you. She's the math whiz later, but the majority of the students are going to be able to complete the clinical expectations before the end of the semester. However, there are a few that will not, and a lot of it did have to do with uploading clinical documentation, getting to that clinical site on time. So we would like to propose that we would have these students, that's what I'm looking for.
So they're gonna take and that was also a recommendation done by the visiting team, to take an incomplete and just finish towards the end of May. So in 3 weeks, they should be able to finish the time that they were missing for the clinicals.
Right. And in the meantime, we have reactivated our Sims lab. We are working with the company that originally put it up to make sure the system is updated. We are having faculty trained on it as of this Friday, multiple faculty who are also wanting to bring students back to the Sims lab to make sure they fill any gaps in clinical experiences that they might have had, depending on the facility. We all know that our facilities are not even across the board. And so that's another thing we will be working on in the future, is to have more varied experiences.
In terms of the concerns with the other labs, so the skills lab was in the works and now it has been completed. Since 2 weeks ago, it is completely functional. And as we were explaining the Sims as well, I think that one of the biggest concerns that the visiting team had was the concerns of the students not being heard, not being addressed. I'm glad to say that Lauren has an open door policy. Students have been available. She has been available for students at all times. Many of the student concerns have been addressed with her as well as with me. So many of those things that were pointed out were talked to the students. I believe that the students now will also have that extra support, so that figure of an academic advisor, which will be dedicated entirely just to listen and to guide students, then will help to have the students be heard, kind of put all those concerns together and direct them into who they should address and who should they go to. They will still be mentored by faculty, but like the smaller of the issues or things that are more administrative will be addressed by the academic advisor. Other things that we have been working on is moving back to ATI. So that will be a big thing that we will be completing in May, and then the training over the summer. We do believe that that will address several of the concerns. One of which was an English proficiency test. So although as a college Donnelly has one, we do acknowledge that the TEAS test will help in having that be monitored for students. And as a whole, the faculty and Lauren did sit down with faculty, and they all decided that this would be the best system and that will help. It also has all of the systems into one single place, whereas right now it's a piecemealed. It will have it all together. The clinicals and many of the concerns that were in this semester, lesson learned, these are things that will be addressed forefront in the future. So for the fall semester, we already have, work in place, a plan into which those requirements, the students will be met with at the beginning of the summer. They will be, they will, be interviewed and then fully acknowledge what all the requirements are. And the clinical nursing, which is one of the biggest hurdles in getting them enrolled, will be throughout the summer with open lab times, so that there is always someone that can guide them, that can show them how to do it. There were concerns also about documentation, so this will allow for the person to review the documents, to send them back and say if they're admissible, if they're not, why were they not, if they need to redo them, if they have any questions. So again, the person that works with us in the clinicals during the semester, she's not in the building, but she has committed to, before the classes start, that she can be in there with them and guide them throughout. As well as putting them in the different clinical sites and addressing any concerns about how they are placed. And another part that kind of concerns me as well is the assessment of the program. So at Donnelly, we do have a rotation for program assessments. The assessment for the nursing, the plan is, it's an action. We as a college do have a template in which all of the programs are reviewed, but we have worked with a new software in which our assessment and institutional effectiveness person put the template that is based on the KSBN template, and we will start working with that. We will start addressing all the concerns, getting the materials and the data out of ExamSoft, working with the register to get all of the trends. So between the program assessment, which of course will give us a better view of the programs, and assessing student learning outcomes are always assessed every semester, every academic year, but a program review will always have the view of the last 3 years of each of the programs. So that, and along with the implementation of ATI, and actually the implementation of ATI we were already speaking about that since the beginning of the semester, just based on the data. And of course, on the passing rates, seeing how students were performing, and a clear indication that since ATI, because we used to use it and then we moved away from it. Whenever we moved away from it, you can clearly see in the trends that, the passing rates dropped. And so the conclusion is that we should go back to it. So these are some of the things that we are going to address.
What have you done to address faculty orientation and a faculty handbook?
We hit almost a perfect storm of things happening. We had an interim director of nursing who got mysteriously sick, unfortunately. We were expecting him back, when we had our normal, orientation. his sickness unfortunately required him to resign right before Christmas. So, I'll admit that it was we had to scramble, because of that, we adjusted a lot of things, that won't happen again. Our orientation normally is very good. It just, this time, it didn't hit the high standard that we normally hold. We had a lot of things going on at that time. We had put $2 million into the building where nursing is housed mainly to refurbish it, and we were moving back into it at the time, so things were unstable because of that issue. We took from a temporary lodging, a main academic building, back to our nursing building. But the building's been upgraded, and HVAC, IT, many other things. We did have some nurses to get promoted and take jobs elsewhere that we weren't expecting. That's a good sign that they were good and they were promoted and got elsewhere. But at the same time, we were looking across the board at our how we were paying our nurses and our adjuncts and our clinical directors, all of which have been adjusted to meet market needs in the greater Kansas City area, which has significantly changed over the last 2 years. So all these things are done. We've got a refurbished building, better pay, better conditions. We were hiring more nurses than we had slots before. So we have a little bit more of a bench in case someone does get sick, in case someone does need to be replaced or temporarily helped. So I think we're in a much more stable place now than we've, quite frankly, than we've ever been before. And it's looking good going forward. Obviously, we have to, with lots of new people, we have to get everything up to speed, and we're in the process of doing that, and I think well on the way.
So what have you done to bring the current nursing faculty that just started up to speed?
They've all received training on all the programs needed, including Canvas, ExamSoft. Everyone is using it well. We had IT support for the testing issues that we were having initially. We broke through that barrier. And so we are really functioning quite well now. Our faculty is very strong, very committed. And I believe that moving forward, we will be able to provide a smoother journey for our students.
In terms of the handbooks, so what I can say is there's a plan like that cannot be done in a few weeks. So that's a work in progress. So certainly faculty is dividing the work. We did find, unfortunately, at the time of the visit, when they were asking, we didn't have all of the documentation. Of course, as it is in the report, the director was new. Myself, I've been over other programs, but as a dean, I have not been over the nursing program, so I did not know many of these things. We did find the faculty handbook that is proper to the nursing faculty handbook. It is out of date though. It is old from 2018. So we are going to make sure that it is updated and that it is going to be, of course, matching with the general. We do upkeep and have the updated faculty handbook, which is just over for all faculty over the college. So we're gonna make sure, as well as making sure that the student handbook is the same that is online. And then again, the institutions are moving away from doing things manually. So to be quite honest, catalog handbooks are all Word files that are turned into PDF. We are in the process, so there's a big investment right now at Donnelly in which we are going to implement watermark software, not just for assessment, but also for catalogs. So just putting one single line in a catalog moves the whole Word document. And now, thankfully, we're moving to a more professional, easier to manage. We are currently already implemented. That's what I was talking about, the template and the handbook. So that will make it easier just to implement any changes, put the handbooks out, make sure that the changes are done in a single place, because that has been one of the main reasons why we're making this investment in that software is the versions change every time that you move. If there is staff change also, then those changes sometimes, is a hit and miss. With faculty as well, with the Syllabi template, that will all be in the software. There's also a software for faculty credentialing. And so the FQRs, hopefully now we're gonna be much more organized and centralized in terms of where those credentialings are gonna be kept. So this is a whole suite out of Watermark that will actually address many of the concerns that were not only with nursing, but it will just has to do with the efficiency of the institution and it will help us overall. And those were, it's not an easy change. We've been working since last fall. So we're still in training. It's working. Hopefully it will be in the works already for next fall. So right now they're building it, they're putting the material in it. Catalog is almost all done, but we foresee that it will be up and running for fall.
Thanks for sharing all the information. I'm curious, you said that the clinical hours will be met by May. So what's happened between then and now that will continue to ensure that that happens?
Clinicals are just meeting as regularly, so, the students are attending, all of the hiccups that we had in the sites have been addressed. So the students are attending the clinicals. At the beginning, there were some days that were missed, and so, of course, these were going to be the ones that will be replaced at the end or will be covered towards the end. We do have, so as Lauren was saying, we cannot say a number because it depends on the sections. It depends on a day or if it's on the weekend, the days. We do have very clear records of who has done what and how much is missing. And so we do have a plan into how they're gonna cover it. But I will say the group that has missed most is 3 sessions. And those are exactly the weeks that we have left at the end of May that we could cover. So hopefully we would have all this done right before even the summer semester starts.
And we're anticipating no ice storms in May, so.
Right.
That we dealt with. I don't know if that in
And precisely one of the groups that has missed more is the Wednesday group. So Wednesday was, the semester was not an easy Wednesday situation.
Thank you.
With all the recommendations, and I know you guys are making significant strides here, but do you have a timeline for each recommendation as far as when you will be able to get this to Janelle so that we could review it?
So Janelle did include many of the due dates that are in there. I think that the due dates for like the organizational chart with nursing, we've been meeting with Lauren to kind of put that in place. See what will be the best way to address. We have discussed going back and forth between how the structure should go to best support her. And that should be done by the end of April. Many of the other recommendations as of to updating the handbooks, again, these have to go through a process, so it's not just nursing, but so that we foresee that by summer, those should be done. I think that the biggest piece that Janelle and Karen were recommending was the assessment piece, the plan for assessment of the program. And I do acknowledge any institution assessment is kind of like the scary word because it's always the huge task. And the due date was for September, but we foresee that to finishing at the end of the summer. Because again, we Donnelly decided not to have a cohort coming in the summer precisely so that we can focus just on the things that need to be addressed. Specifically, faculty training. We are moving to a new system. Many of the faculty are aware of the system because it was used at Donnelly before. We do have some returning faculty that are returning right now and others that have stayed us at different capacities. But we do have faculty who have not worked with ATI. So we foresee that at least two days in the week, they will be meeting just for professional development during the summer. So that's part of the idea why we don't have the new cohort. We can focus on faculty being trained. And at the same time, to do that assessment plan, start the assessment of the programs in the last 3 years. We will also have support of someone who's not from nursing, but a specialist in the assessment of institutions that will help kind of balance out, maybe not with the in-depth knowledge, but present the data, analyze the data, and then meet with the faculty, and then the faculty can give feedback.
And just to clarify, one of the recommendations was to assure that all your printed materials and websites say that you're on conditional approval. Has that been done?
Yes, I believe that, the only one, and again, that's why I was very transparent in the, difficulties in terms of having these words and PDFs. And so the person that kind of manages that, our, head of institutional effectiveness is returning to work today. So that's the only place in which we will have to put it in. It is quite big and a big banner, and it has been. So I know that in here in the report, it said in the catalog, it wasn't, and it isn't. But it has always been in the website. When you go into nursing and they look at the admissions of nursing, there was a red banner that had it. And now the red banner has included not only that it says that it is conditional admission, but also for the ADN program, it says that there is no returning, no new cohort for the summer. So that has been clearly communicated. It was also communicated to the prospective students, so that they had time to either apply for another program, or to wait for us for the next time that we admit a cohort.
So have you communicated to current students all the things that you're doing to change and to improve?
I can speak to that. Okay, so I have been communicating with students. I have a very open door policy. Policy is that for my faculty knows that any concerns that a student has, they are to contact me via email, and I will set up a meeting to meet with them in person. And then, going forward from that. So we're hearing our students. And we also are going to have, so we've been communicating the excitement. They've been excited about, talking about, the Sims Lab, what the opportunities are for them there. They're excited because they want to be a part of this school. They want this school and need it. And we are going to have I'm going to call it a pep rally for lack of a better term. It's actually scheduled for 2 days on the 4th and the 5th. At a time when most students and faculty will be able to hit most of them. We're going to get photos of the students. And of course, Anna and I, Monsignor, will be there to speak to the students and to encourage them. So we're very transparent. My leadership is very transparent with students. I believe that education is a democratic process and they have a right to speak up. I recognize assertiveness in my students because we're not just teaching curriculum in nursing. Okay, we're not just teaching the task. We are teaching integrity and leadership. And if we don't model that, then we are doing our students a disservice.
And from the president's point of view, not only have the complaints gone to zero, that at the beginning of the term, we had too many. But the one thing I learned in the process was not everybody was being that open door policy in the nursing at the time. That won't ever happen again without that. And that's an important part of us being available to the students. So that's been a focus. We learned something in the process, and not everybody did that.
So yes, the communications have been done, but right now there hasn't been the opportunity to get all the students together. It has been done by class. The other things, as Monsignor is saying, one of the things that we put into place was really displaying the office hours for all faculty, for them to understand, and also to hold the faculty accountable that they have to be in their office. They have to be available for their students during that time. And that, students recognize also that faculty will not have open doors like 24 hours because they also have other, meetings to attend or other things, but there is a time in which they will be heard. There is a time in which certainly they can look for that faculty. We did speak to faculty for them also to make sure that those hours are accommodating not just to them, but thinking of how the students are coming. Each group has different hours to attend only, in different days. And so they should have office hours in the days that the cohorts they're teaching towards are available. Like they're not gonna offer it in days that the students, one of the things that we always have to think, and that's part of the reason why getting them together is really hard. Most of our students are non-traditional students. Most of our students are working full-time, family members, they have kids. And so it is very tricky to ask them to be at Donnelly at times in which they have not thoroughly prepared. And that is one of the reasons why I think there were many concerns at the beginning of the semester. It's certainly something that, I know we have recognized, the nursing team has recognized, and Lauren has been talking to many of these students. She has a great grasp of what is the situation of our students, and so the idea again is because of this time that we will have with not admitting students, we can really focus on addressing those concerns before the classes start. And then once the classes start, really be organized. This is an opportunity for us to, I cannot say any less than lessons learned. And that we know that if there's not a thorough organization, of course, things we're not gonna go through, and many of the things that were missing at the beginning was precisely that. Many of the things that were assigned in December were not met by the faculty members that these tasks were assigned to. And unfortunately, the people did not continue at Donnelly. So we were faced with a really hard situation in January. Seeing that, it certainly has invited us to say, we're not gonna be ready in June or July, like at least systems, programming, books, clinical sites should be done by May, so that over the summer, students are coming in for the fall, they should already know what to expect, what days to attend, what are the days, because we know that our students have to prepare for childcare, have to prepare with their jobs. So those are many of the things that we have seen, and of course, the documentation really stressful for them not to be able or to submit something and get it bounced back and get it bounced back. And so all of that is just organizing it, doing things ahead of time, not waiting until the last minute, which was unfortunately what happened in this semester.
As far as your student numbers, have you retained your students? Have students left the program because of these issues?
No, they haven't left the programs for the issue. We did have some that didn't meet standards and were dropped from the program because of failure. But we didn't, as far as I know, we didn't lose a single student that wasn't in that category.
Okay. And part of our meeting today is looking at our NCLEX pass rates,
Yeah.
which for the ADN program has been improving from 54 up to 77.78 for 24. But the PM program did decrease this year below our requirement of 80%. Do you have an improvement plan for those?
Yes, I really believe that turning to ATI is going to give our faculty the tools that they need so that we have a consistency in learning and teaching. And then it also, the resources will be available for them. And then ongoing training, going to be investing in faculty, additional training throughout the summer. Maybe that would be content expertise that they, so definitely opening that up. As I said, we have I believe, a very committed group of faculty, and many of them, there are a few returning, but many of them are new and have seized this opportunity to be a part of educating nurses for the future.
And do your faculty have a 12-month contract?
Yes.
Just out of curiosity.
Yes, yes.
Full-time.
We're full-time. We
Right.
don't do contract, we
Yeah,
do full-time.
Full-time, okay.
Yeah. And we have some people are ready to come back as long as we have a cohort in the fall. If we don't, we're gonna lose some personnel that we'd otherwise have. So that's why we really hope we can continue full, in the fall.
Any additional questions for the committee?
Madam Chair, I move to accept the unscheduled site visit report for Donnelly College and to place both RN and PN programs on conditional approval and cease admissions for at least 6 months, with a site visit to be done before restarting admissions.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Now, the 6 months is past the summer, so that's something we need to consider as well.
There's a fair amount of continuing students as well. But that's,
So they can finish, yeah.
I'm Maggie, allowed to speak at this stage. I don't want to. Is it possible for us to do this so we can start our cohorts in the fall?
the recommendation as of now is for a 6-month. We would have our next meeting in June to reevaluate.
That's good.
Yeah. So at this point, it would be a 6 months. So from this date, but we can have you turn things into Janelle. We can definitely reevaluate this at the June meeting, but at this point,
Have you
that's
guys come back?
the recommendation. I think you need some time for stability. It's for your current students before admitting new students. And we can reevaluate and reconsider at our June meeting.
I think that's only fair to the current
I
students,
agree.
for sure.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Abstention? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. We are going to move on next to new business, and I am actually going to step in the chair of the education committee and let Ruth take over as chair, and I'm going to move seats.
Okay.
And I also have Dr. Karen Johnson with me, so I'll let Ruth take
Okay.
over.
We have a major curriculum change request from Pittsburgh State University. And we have Dr. Sharon Johnson, correct? Karen. Yes. And then Dr. Amy Hyde to present the request.
Thank you. So our request is to increase our student admissions. We currently are approved by KSBN for 95 students per year to be admitted to our program. We have been seeing an increase in applications post-COVID. We also had a significant expansion in our building and the addition of a simulation hospital. We have support from our clinical partners. It will be a slow process. We are not going to 120 admissions this year, but we just want to have that ability, as our admission or as our letters, and applications increase, that when we have the infrastructure in place, that we would do a slow and steady increase.
Does anyone have any comments or questions from the committee?
We have great support from your clinical sites. You can see that I see here, so.
Oh, did you have a question? No comment. We're ready to entertain a motion.
I move to approve the major curriculum change request for Pittsburgh State University DSN program to increase the number of yearly admission seats from 95 students to 120 students.
Okay, do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
A second, Michelle Terry.
Thank you. Let's move to a vote. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? The same? No. Motion passes.
Abstention. Thank you. Thank you, Karen. I should have abstained from that in the dinner. Back to this side. Okay, thank you, Ruth.
Move it back to you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Let me get back to our agenda. Next up, we have 3 requests from the University of Kansas, and I think we have representation here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, and this begins on page 86 with the first request.
Good morning again. I'm Judy Giddens. I'm the dean at KU. I've been at KU almost a year.
Hi, I'm Nelda Godfrey. I'm the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Programs at University of Kansas School of Nursing.
I'm Jessica Brunsman. I'm the BSN on-campus program director.
Thank you. And I think if the committee agrees, we will do these. While they're connected, they're separate. So if it's okay with you, we'll take each one separately. So if you'd like to discuss your first one, which was increasing admissions from 150 to 240.
Sure, I'll take that one and we'll pass the baton. As you saw in your packets, we would like to increase our admissions, as you heard just a minute ago, to 240. Our rationale similarly is we have an increased waiting list. We have increased numbers of students seeking pre-admission or pre-nursing at the Lawrence campus. We are turning away large number of applicants. As you read in the packet, our intent would be to do this increase progressively over time and as consumer demand is matched. And also it allows us to ensure that we've got clinical spaces over time that we need. We do have great commitment from our health system partners at Children's Mercy as well as the University of Kansas Health System. So I'll just stop with that. There's a lot more information in the packet. Any questions?
Any comments? Okay,
Madam Chair, I move to approve the major curriculum change request from the University of Kansas BSN program to increase admissions from 150 per year to 240 per year in the traditional undergraduate program on the Kansas City, Kansas campus.
That's a mouthful.
Wow.
And second from you.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All who approve signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Abstention. The motion carries. Thank you. Okay, and your second request is the flexibility of offering 5 of your courses as either in-person or hybrid.
Right, and I'll take that one.
Okay.
We are in the same boat as everyone else in higher ed. We're looking at different opportunities for our students. Right now, our on-campus BSN program is on ground. We want the opportunity to perhaps do hybrid. So we've identified 1 or 2 courses in each semester. And as we look at our schedule for fall, they have little question marks beside them. So there's not a big push to do that right now, but it gives us the opportunity to, number one, identify the courses that would be best suited for that early. And then also with the permission of the board to have that as a modality option for us going forward. So it's crossing our T's and dotting our I's is what that is.
Any questions? The motion.
I move to approve the major curriculum change request from the University of Kansas BSN program to allow nurse 327, 334, 471, 476, 478 in either in-person or hybrid modality.
I second Michelle Terry.
Thank you, Ruth and Michelle. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Abstentions. Okay, the motion carries. On to the third request, which is a change in your clinical ratio from 4-hour clock hours for each 1 credit hour to 3 clock hours for each one.
When we looked at comparable schools to ours and nationwide, the more used ratio is 3 to 1. It will also help us as we increase our numbers if that is approved, to find appropriate clinical spots for all of our students in all of our sites and lighten the burden a little bit on our clinical partners.
Question.
I move to approve the major curriculum change request from the University of Kansas BSN program to change the clinical hour to credit hour ratio from 4 to 1 to 3 to 1, resulting in the reduction of the program's overall clinical hours from 720 to 540.
I'll second that. Karen. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Abstentions. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Yeah. Okay. Moving on to Cloud Community College. And that is on page 106 if you're following along. Good morning.
Good morning, Stephanie Perrette representing Cloud County Community College.
Okay, if you'd like to discuss your request.
So what I'm bringing forth today is a recommendation from not only our faculty, students, and advisory committee, but also our overall college program. What we're requesting is bi-level designation for our associate degree nursing program. A little bit of history about Cloud. For a number of years, several decades, we were only an LPN to ADN program. And then starting in 2016, we did a major curriculum revision and brought forth the generic traditional option. At that time, there was discussion on what Cloud's vision was. Are we wanting to be a 1+1 program? Are we wanting to be a generic program? Are we wanting to be a bi-level program? And even during that conversation, there was different interpretations of the Kansas Nurse Practice Act and what a bi-level program is. So at that time, we chose the generic option. We have now been in that curriculum for coming up on 9 years. And what we have found is we really want to give our associate degree nursing students the opportunity to take their PN boards after that first year of curriculum. When you look at our demographic, we have a very wide range of ages, career styles, many of them being second careers. And what we have found is we think it would be beneficial with the current economic status, as well as the way our demographics have changed in the world post-COVID, to allow our students that opportunity to take the PN boards after the first year. It would not be a requirement of our program, and that's why we're seeking that bi-level designation. We've had multiple conversations with Janelle, as well as our practice partners. We feel that this is the direction that we are wanting to go. When we built our curriculum, really building the first year to mirror what was expected for an LPN to ADN in that LPN program. And you'll see within the packet how we have aligned the different outcomes and how really everything fits together quite solidly with our systematic evaluation plan, how we can already bring in our current outcomes to meet the expectations of PN curriculum. There are probably two main areas that we will need to continue to enhance. And one of them is IV therapy, because we offer IV therapy in the first year of the program, but currently our students would not have taken the state IV therapy exam because they're not sitting for their PN boards yet. So that would be one area that we would want to enhance. Those students that are seeking the PN licensure, then they would also need to take that state exam for IV therapy, as well as submit the roster and those different requirements. The other area that we have already worked on is incorporation into scope of practice. So this was addressed previously because in the second year of our program, we bring in a number of LPN to ADN students to mix with our generic option. So we had already discussed with our generic option students, kind of what's this difference? We're bringing that forth in foundations or lifespan nursing 1, as we call it at Cloud. But in lifespan nursing 2, we are also brought in another lecture, kind of based in our mental health community and leadership, bringing forth what would that scope of practice really look like if you chose to take your PN boards. And again, we're wanting this as an option for students. They are not opting out of our program. They are entering into an RN program with the expectation that they continue for the entire duration of the program, just an opportunity that they can either gain experience working as a PN while continuing into the second year, or we all know life happens and we want to have them see the value in that first year of the nursing program. Again, that expectation that if they do have to step away, then we also encourage them to look at our readmission policy to come back.
Very thorough documentation and report. Thank you.
And just for clarification for you all, because of regulations, the way they are, to take the PN NCLEX, they have to graduate from an approved program. So that's why part of what you see is an application for basically a new program, which isn't really a new program, but we have to treat it like that because we'll have to do the same process we would for that so that we can get that PN level designation for them. And then they will enter the site visit cycle, just like all our other bi-levels, that we do both a review of the PN level and then of the total ADN level. And those are a lot of times two different time periods because they are base and accredited. So I just wanted to kind of share that too. That's why you see both. We talked about that a lot, but I think that was the right thing. It provided all the documentation for it too, but it will also allow us the process we need to meet regulatory requirements as well and get the students able to take the exam. So hopefully that's awesome.
Yes. Any questions?
I move to approve the major curriculum change request from Cloud County Community College ADM program to allow bi-level designation for the ADM program, permitting students to sit for the NCLEX PN after completion of the first year of the program, continuing program enrollment with up to 100 admissions annually for the first and second year, and approve the initial application for a PN program and approve admissions to start fall 2025 with a site visit to be done prior to full approval of the PN level as a program approved for the NCLEX PN applicants.
Thank you, I'll second that. Thank you, Karen. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
So Amy, may I ask one clarification question?
Yes.
On behalf of our current students are also seeking information on, once they complete the first year of our program, which some of them are approaching that in May, if they would also be eligible to take the PN NCLEX after the completion of this first year. Or if we needed to hold and those students that are currently being admitted for fall, if they would be the first ones eligible to take the PN NCLEX after. But I don't. You're the expert.
Well, in terms of regulation, when we have talked about, this is maybe somewhat open, this is your decision, but what we require is any kind of major curriculum change or new approval wouldn't go into place until it's approved.
Right.
So typically, those who are already in the process would not be considered part of that approved.
That's fair.
They entered the program as an ADN. I mean, that's just looking at what it's kind of precedent, what we've kind of looked at in the past. We don't have anything exactly like it. But just in terms of any other curriculum, major curriculum change or initial program approval, there wouldn't have been anybody already in the system finishes under the current.
Okay, yes, Debbie, Debbie,
did you have a contact?
Sorry, I accidentally raised my hand.
Okay.
I think we were all gaining.
I know. Waiting for wisdom to come forth.
okay.
And Carol, I don't know if you have any other thought.
No, that's pretty well the way that I know it, but again, kind of you all have the choice. Because when they entered the program, it was not what they're wanting to change it to.
Correct. We did not have bi-level designation when they entered the program.
Well, the other thing that I just also kind of feeds into that is what you've talked about in terms of the IV therapy and the scope of practice enhancement. I think would be important for those taking the exam. And since they're already in process and that approval won't be in place, the curriculum they're already doing doesn't have those enhancements in it yet. That's the only other piece that kind of factors into it.
Okay, I wasn't sure if we would be able to add those things since we were still in the semester. I just wasn't sure. That's why I wanted to pose the question. Because I know my students are going to come back and ask.
Yeah.
So I want to be well-versed and prepared.
Right. I think the simplest answer is because the approval is happening now, it would be for anybody entering the program after the approval.
Okay.
That's fall
It's just-
2025.
Unfortunately, they fall right on that, but it's just kind of the way of the regulatory world.
Is that something the students could appeal individually?
I don't know what it would. the thing is, even if they do that, they will have completed the semester, I guess. It's just not in place now for what their intention is. Again,
It doesn't set them up for their best chance.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Right,
Because you want to pass the first time.
right.
Oh my gosh.
well, in this instance too, it's the PM level, it's giving the opportunity. This isn't a requirement.
Correct.
It's giving those that feel like they want to do that, the opportunity. I don't,
So for these current students, if we were to create like a bridge transition course, an optional course for the current students to take, would that be an opportunity for the current cohort? And then with the knowledge moving forward in August, those that are admitted 2025, if bi-level designation is approved, then they would not have to take any type of transition.
But that would need to be another major curriculum.
That would be-
change request to add that course. And that's what I used to with what you're talking about. It's a PN exit type of a course.
And we went down all different routes. One thing we just wanted to make sure is that the students had the understanding they're not exiting. We're wanting them to continue.
Correct.
So
it's just enhanced.
Right.
So we have a motion at this time and a second run. So we're in discussion if we want to make an addendum to the motion or do we want to leave it as is?
Well, I need to clarify. So if this type of a course was presented as a major curriculum change at the next meeting, how would that impact then the students that you're talking about if that was approved?
I think the current students would be extremely pleased that the opportunity was presented to them for the option to take that additional. It would, our thoughts were, it would be a 1 credit hour, 15 clock hour course, which would include the addition of the LPN IV therapy exam because they have not taken that exam yet. And then also bringing in a PN review course. That way they are in preparation, a live review model.
So when would you plan on, I mean, as a major curriculum change, that would come back in June. So when would you plan on
So we would,
teaching that course?
we had talked about if that was even an opportunity, bringing that forth in July or the first part of August.
Or could that be like I know they're not licensed yet, but like a CNE type thing? Like, because it's only gonna be one time that they offer it, that's a question more than anything. Oh, I know, but I don't
know how we would offer, if you're thinking non-credit, I'm not sure how. That's why we're here today and posing this question. Again, I'm completely fine with, we start with August of 25. I just know that we will be fielding current students' questions. And then as mentioned, what would that appeal process look like?
Well, I don't think it would be as much of a problem because they entered a program that was not bi-level.
Right.
So they're admitted as students for an ADN program, period. This isn't to start till fall for your next cohort of
Right.
students. I guess if you wanted to bring a major curriculum change request to June with a plan to offer that, we would have to discuss it in June.
Okay.
And I guess that would give you time to see how many students are even interested in this option for a one-time opportunity.
So that would be beneficial. We have 33 students that are currently in the first year of our program. And we have not polled the students for just this reason. We didn't want to raise hopes. And then, but they know that, I mean, we've been very transparent with them. We've been talking with our clinical sites, so they know that I'm here today. So on Thursday, I'm sure they will.
Of course. Okay. So we're going to leave the motion as is. If you decide you want to come in June, we would be happy to entertain a new idea. if you have the students that would like to do that, because I see benefit, but yes, I think it needs to be a plan separate from this. Unless the committee wants to change it. Okay. Okay, great discussion. So we have a motion and a second. Who was our second? No,
Karen.
Michelle and Karen. Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, motion carried. Thank you so much. Okay. Next, we have Manhattan Area Technical College. And so that is on page 199 and Kim Curley is here. You said? Yeah, okay.
Morning. I'm Kim Davis, the program director at Manhattan Area Technical College for ADN and PN. Today, what we are proposing, we have a 3-week, in our program, we have a 3-week RN transition course that basically focuses on assessment and the transition role from, we are a 1+1 program, so our students come in as LPNs, and then within that course, we discuss with them the role transition, the difference between the PN and the ADN role. Our faculty have felt like that the students that we are admitting now as compared to 10 years ago, they're better. Our LPNs, some are working, some just come straight from an LPN program. But with the curriculum, the rigor of the curriculum in our statewide PN programs, our students are coming with good assessment skills. And so the faculty feel that we could transfer that, those assessment skills and practicums into the content areas. So that they can go into more depth and not just do the basics when you have a 3-week course. Another issue is we do have some students that come in that have been in practice for a while and they need to get back into that student role. And that 3-week course sometimes presented a challenge, and our concern was that we didn't want to have any roadblock to students that could be successful given more time. And so what we are requesting is to eliminate the 3-week NUR 201 RN transition course, which we would take those 2 credit hours and implement it into the second course of the program in the first semester, which is nursing across the lifespan, and it would increase that role from 10 credit hours to 12 credit hours. Will not change the overall program credit hours. And then that also affects then the 3rd course in the 2nd semester. The only change to that is we've eliminated the prerequisite of the NUR 201. So within this, the 2 faculty have submitted letters of recommendation. The college-wide president is in favor of this. So that is our request.
Thank you. Any questions for Kim?
I move to approve the major curriculum change request from Manhattan Area Technical College ADN program to eliminate NUR 201 and change NUR 220, nursing across the lifespan, NUR 221, nursing across the lifespan, and increasing the course credit hours from 10 to 12 credit hours.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay.
Okay, Michelle, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. We are a little over an hour, but we have 2 more if the committee's okay to keep moving. Okay, yeah, and we have Kansas Wesleyan.
I'm Janine Houchin, Director of Nursing for Kansas Wesleyan. My request might be your easiest. I am literally here to ask for your permission to change the mode of delivery for our Introduction to Professional Nursing course. I think we've run the gamut. It started as a face-to-face course. We've changed it a few years ago to online, and now we're asking for permission to teach it as hybrid. So we're going to try all the methods. It's part of a much larger change that we're making, the remainder of which Janelle received copious documents of minor curriculum changes. And we're working to offer a flexible curriculum schedule for our students
because we have a large number of them that are athletes and in activities. So we're trying to offer a schedule that will allow them to take some summer courses in order to lighten their load during the semesters. And our students are very excited about this opportunity. And so that, all of that is schedule changing and, you know, figuring out that part of the plan. But this one change that we're asking for today is because these sophomores, the students that take this course as a sophomore, struggle with online courses. And we really feel like we need some face-to-face time with them to help them understand this is your first nursing course, this is what's expected. And to relieve a little bit of the fear they have about, you know, a scary nursing faculty. And help us to be a little more approachable, to guide them, and to prepare them, better prepare them for the actual nursing program. So that is my request.
Any questions for the committee?
I move to approve the major curriculum change request from Kansas Wesleyan University BSN program to change the delivery method of NURS 250 Introduction to Professional Nursing from online to hybrid option.
I second Michelle Perry.
Michelle, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor with a yes? Yes. Opposed? Abstentions? It carries. Thank you. Okay. Our next is two requests, and Karen's going to change roles from the University of St. Mary. And these requests, do we want to consider separately or together?
I think,
Yeah.
We submitted them separately, but together is just fine. And I think probably we're the easiest one.
Yes, yes, that was my thought. If you'd like to discuss those for us.
The faculty in the maternal child course have been for years saying that they needed to have some extra time, which we took away last curriculum changing. Now they're fighting to get it back, and they absolutely need it back. The foundation's faculty has indicated that they could tolerate one less didactic credit. So we thought we would just switch them and make everybody happy.
Any discussion or questions for Karen?
No change in content at all, just the time.
I move to approve the major curriculum change request from the University of St. Mary to increase the credit hour of NUAT 325 from 5 credit hours to 6 credit hours. Reduce the credit hour of NUAT 305 from 5 credit hours to 4 credit hours.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor with a yes?
Yes. Abstain.
Thank you, Karen. No one opposes. Okay, the motion carries. Okay, we have made it through all the new business, major curriculum changes. Do we wish to take a short break? Okay, so let's, it's almost 9:45, so we'll say we'll take a 10-minute break and start again at 9:55.
Yes.
Is that what you said? Okay, thank you. Yes, it's always great. We are one state, but we're so spread out. So when we get to see each other, it's lovely to visit and talk. So my apologies that we went a little over. We'll get back to our agenda, which the next item on the agenda is our NCLEX annual report. And I think by far, we need to congratulate ourselves as a state. These are some wonderful first time pass rates. Yes, I think the people today. It is the hard work of the people in this room, the faculty, the students, the administrative support that we have. So I'll give Janelle a chance to kind of go over. I know there's a few areas we could have some improvement. What page is that on? It is on page 233 is the start of it.
And that first page is actually the NCSBN NCLEX annual report. So it's showing you the national, that's where I get the national statistics from. And I just thought I would include that. So you could see all the different levels because they do it, by level as well. The diploma, the ADN, BSN, which I usually report to you, but this way you can see it and the numbers attached to it. And it's a little easier for you to absorb it when you can see it. So I would just say, to add to what Amy just said, for the ADN program, 4 of the last 5 years, as an average, you have been above the national average. So I think that's a wonderful accomplishment. Individually, there might be some issues, but overall, I think maintaining very, very well. So as you know, and also I should say for PN as well, they tend to always, and here the last 5 years have been above the national average as well. So I think both deserve a lot of kudos for that. The other thing we're going to look at, I think we need to also look at is, and there were several, I will again say kudos, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the RN and 6 of the PN programs are also at 100% pass rate for 2024. So congratulations to all of you as well. So always good to have the good news first. A couple of things we do need to look at. We do have an 80% standard, which went into place in 2021. We follow our regulations follow the same kind of process. We have kind of a standard that we look at. So we changed that in 2021, not only with the increase in our pass rate standard, but we also, the board also changed how you approach those that go under the standard. So as you might recall, first year under, we send a letter of concern. This is just our standard process, a letter of concern to the program and just ask them to look at the program and submit some kind of analysis with a plan. Just, we know it's 1 year, but we always like to get on top of it and see if there's anything that makes sure that most of them are doing it anyway. It's just been a more formal process. When it gets to 2 years below, the board can make a decision to do something other than usually what we do is have them write a more substantial program analysis and come and present it to you all and to what they're doing and get that approved by you all. Depending on what your concerns are, there is also a possibility you could have a site visit. But generally then that's, if there's 3 years below, then that's when we might see the site visit become. That's again up to you. Those are kind of the progression that you all agreed upon when the regulations changed. So there's still some wiggle room in there for you to decide. Sometimes a program is below 1 year, but when you look at trends, up, down, up, down, up, down, you might have more concerns than if it's just 1 year. 1 year can happen to anybody. But then this also the consistency, how long they've been a program. We all know that from the NCSBN guidelines, one of the pass rates are important. We know that that's an indicator. It's a late indicator. But that's why in the annual report, we also look at what other things are going on to try to see if those are things that are contributing and encourage, to keep on top of the changes kind of thing. So that being said, just for you, RN programs, we had 4 programs that were below the 80% standard. I'm gonna kind of go backward. WSU Tech is an ADN program. This is their first year. So it's also, we actually just did a site visit with them. And a follow-up to their graduation, talked to students. That report was approved. They have a plan because they are already working on that. But, that is their first annual report. Just so you know that. Seward ADN, they're one of our programs unconditional. They've had kind of some ups and downs since they had a major turnover in faculty and director. It's been a few years, but again, the ups and downs of that. They were up last year above, so this is again, they're 1 year below, but they have been below 3 of the last 5. So it's kind of been an up and down cycle for them, unfortunately. I know but I wanted you to know that. Donnelly is the other one. They are also on conditional approval currently. This is a 3rd year below. It has been increasing. I think we have submitted the letter, I think 2 years in a row, just of concern because we knew that there was already a plan in place, which was being presented to us that was improving, but now we're at a level. It still did improve this year, but we're still below. So again, just for your awareness, that's the 3rd year below, and they are on conditional. And then Colby ADN also is just slightly below, and this is their 1st year below. They had been up for, I think the last 3 years. So, there's one other thing. Oh, just a note. Fort Scott, because that's been a program we've been looking at, they had been below for 3 years. They are on conditional approval. But if you notice this year too, they had, actually last year, they were able to get their rates up. And then this year they have a very solid pass rate for the ones that have been part of the program. I just wanted to make a note of that. So we'll hear from them later. On the PN side, or do you want to talk about that at all?
You want comments about the ADN and BSN programs?
I guess the 2 questions I have, if we do the standard, I would send the letter of concern to the 3 programs that are on their 1 year below. Question, Seward, do you want anything additional because of the last? And that's just an option. We usually just do the letter of concern, and we can do that still. The other is with Donnelly being 3 years below unconditional, and we just have if you're okay with, we're gonna be doing a site visit. Right. I mean, it could also be part of this, that will have, it has to be done as part of that. That's up to you, but so I don't know if you want to talk about that, or you want me to finish with the PN and then we can talk about it all.
Maybe discuss the RN.
Okay.
I think Donnelly, I mean, my thought is it's one of the recommendations is an improvement plan for their NCLEX.
Right.
They did have a steady slow increase, so we'll be hopeful, but I do think we need to have a formal improvement plan for their NCLEX. And that was one of the recommendations on their site visit.
Right. A question, do you want them to come present that to you all?
Yeah, include that in the June.
Okay.
They talk about their ATI plan.
Okay.
Yeah,
Plus ATI plus.
since they'll come back in June, I think that
Yeah.
would be good.
When did their RNs graduate, Janelle?
They'll have a class that graduates in May,
December.
and then the class that was just admitted will be in December.
So we'll see.
They're not admitting, they're not admitting the summer class, which would have only been ADNs.
Right.
So, and I think there's only 7 in the May class. I know,
Sorry.
that'll make pass rates a little tougher, but.
And then Seward, with their kind of up, down. Obviously, they'll get a letter for this year. Do we want anything else more formal for them to present to us in June?
I would make it consistent. Yeah, I think it would make it consistent.
And I would like more information about what they're doing at this point. They did come up a little bit. So what, how did that happen?
And they don't, I know they have had a new implementation of ATI as well, right?
Okay.
So a plan, and you want them here in June as well?
And WSU Tech, with that being their first year, is there anything we would like from them?
I think Larry, something from the, recommendations already, they're already working on it. They've had a program analysis and are working on it as well.
3 for our, and then we'll move to our PM programs, which I believe is it 2 that are below Donnelly and.
Yes, Donnelly and Mid-America College of Health Sciences. Donnelly, this is the first time below for their PN. They've been pretty steady in the eighties, up until this year, and it was a pretty big significant drop for them. Then now you've already made the motion in terms of the overall, so they'll be on conditional. So again, it's a first time for the PN side. You do letter Mid-America, if you recall, this is a new program as well, but this is their second year. They've come up from 47% to 63%, but it's still pretty far below there. So, and they are on conditional as well from, if you remember from the last time, we did do a revisit. They kind of got things in place, but we left them on conditional, and then we were waiting for this too. So now this is a factor in there, so.
I think
Then come in June as well.
time for them to get the idea with an improvement plan.
Okay.
Any other discussion about the NCLEX report or comments?
The scores have gone up so dramatically since we implemented the NGNs, which was interesting. Is the NCSBN going to do anything in terms of reevaluating what the hospitals think? How the hospitals believe that the nurses are coming out, since the NGN was supposed to affect that?
Actually had a question come through, sorry for jumping in, about that. The concern, I think, was from some conference someone had been to, that the NCLEX is too easy, students are just passing. NCSBN has been steadily looking, just like they always have, at the questions, what's going on. They're seeing really good results with the new question types. Not necessarily that the questions are easier, because they're still doing the statistical analysis on that. They're still talking to experts. All of the question, the way that they do questions is still, they're still doing all that analysis. They will continue to do that. I don't think there's any plan at the last time they looked at, they have not increased the passing standard for either test at this point. And I believe they're set until 2026, so they'll look at it again then. But they have continued to do analysis with my understanding is from Nancy, I talked to her at NCSB, and she's the education person that we work with, our education network. Is that they have been looking at it, and there may be some kind of reporter study that comes out. And she said she would let me know if there's been anything, but she said in terms of what they're seeing, and then the statistics, what the statisticians are saying is that it's not easier, it's just different.
More relatable.
And it's, they feel like the new questions, because remember that about 70% of the test is still the old test.
Questions, yes.
Or question type, so it hasn't changed completely. So,
Interesting to know if that we're translating into practice.
and hopefully, I will ask that question, because the people that are coming in to talk about new test items and working with them on the exam itself are from practice. There are many of them from practice, so they're able to give them feedback about what they feel like should be tested on. And hopefully they're seeing it translate to practice, so. I missed the point there, and you're right. That's a good question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, if there's no further discussion, of the NCLEX report, we have that to review. We'll have some follow-up in June from the programs we discussed. And we will move on to the OET request. And that is on page 237. And is someone here to discuss that with us?
Thought we were gonna have,
Where'd she buy them?
I think it might, I'm trying to remember the name, I'm so sorry.
Is it Andrea Tar Holton?
Is it Joy?
Joy.
I think it's Joy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sorry.
No, that's.
I'm so sorry, Joy. If we could bring her over to this side, I think she had a short, they did provide information for you in the packet, but they were gonna do a little short presentation, be able to answer questions.
Okay. Joy?
She's coming.
Okay, perfect.
Well, hello. I think maybe you can hear me now.
So if you could take about 5 minutes or so to explain your request to us and answer any questions.
Yes, I know we have very limited time. You are able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for the time. And it's nice to see you, even though I'm not there in person. You do have information in the letter of request about the occupational English test. I wanted to point out just a couple of things that are not in that letter for your consideration. The first is appropriate since you were just talking about NCLEX. OET uses Prometric testing centers, and there are multiple locations in Kansas. I just looked at that. And their security system is very similar to NCLEX. The security approaches that OET takes are also very similar to what you're used to with NCLEX, meaning that if scores don't make sense, those results are held back until they can do some further analysis. And I've seen several instances of that happening where the results just don't make sense and they needed to look into what happened with that test. The other thing is that the board, should you choose to accept this test, the board sets the passing standard. So in that way, it's very dissimilar to NCLEX. So HRSA did approve the test in 2019, and they have set passing standards. I tend to think it makes things much easier for the internationally educated nurse should you stay with those same standards. But OET maps very carefully to IELTS in terms of score comparisons. So you can also look at it that way, trying to make a comparable passing score to your IELTS. The IELTS scores that you currently accept are lower in a couple of areas than what HRSA would accept. You're a little bit lower in writing and speaking. Across the US, those states that have approved mostly stay with the HRSA standards, but there is some variation out there. And I can provide more information to Janelle and Carol on that as needed.
Any questions for Joy? So this would be specifically for our international nurses that are trained internationally seeking a Kansas license.
Right, we have the regulation that if their program was not in English, that they have to take the test, and we did add the IELTS or I don't remember how you said that. IELTS.
Oh, IELTS is how I say it.
IELTS, okay. I said it differently, but we did just set that standard. We approved that last year. And so she's right, this maps a little bit very similarly, but like she mentioned, I didn't see in there if there was anything about how the passing standard is done and set for the OET. The one thing nice about this is it is an occupational test. So it is for nursing would be very helpful to know how well they do with
nursing, you know, as a nurse with English. So that was the one big draw for that. Joy, you might mention too, if what the passing standard is that HRSA has for those and how that equates to the IELTS.
Sure. So, excuse me, HRSA has a passing standard on IELTS of 6.5 for writing, reading, and listening, which equates to a C+ in the OET system. And they allow, or they expect a higher standard in speaking of 7.0. Kansas has 6.5 for reading and listening and speaking, and then you have a lower standard in writing of 5.5. So the original developer of OET was also a developer of IELTS. So a lot of work was done initially in standard setting to map those two tests. And I think I mentioned in the letter that Dr. Phil Dickinson at NCSBN looked at that mapping as far as standard setting for comparability across tests, and he was satisfied that that standard setting made sense and was valid. And he has told us that you should feel free to contact him about that if you have more questions. And just another, sorry, really quick thing is having a profession-specific test does distinguish OET from a test like TOEFL, IELTS, and other academic tests. They are designed to test somebody who's headed into academic study at a university. OET is designed to test somebody who's heading into a workplace. So it's testing their English language ability. It's not testing their medical knowledge, but everything that they're reading and using as their format to be tested is all medical and nursing content. Just a quick example, on an academic English test for writing, you might be asked to just do an essay about a recent trip that you took. In OET, you're going to be asked to look at a series of chart notes and then put together something like a referral letter or a discharge summary. So the test taker feels like they're in their own environment when they're demonstrating their English language proficiency.
Joy, thank you for the information. Any questions from the board for Joy? Do we feel like we have enough information and time to review this and make a motion?
I move to approve the use of occupational English test OET as an approved English language proficiency test for internationally educated nurses seeking Kansas licensure.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is just an option.
This would become, if approving it would be you're recommending to the board for tomorrow that this become a test that could be used. What it doesn't have in here is we haven't discussed any standard setting.
Right.
And so that would be the only thing, not that has to be done today. You could approve it as a test, and with the idea that before it could be put out there, we'd have to look at how, whether you want to go with the standard, how it equates to what we already have, and we could get you more information on that. This is really more just the request is to add this as an option for Kansas. And that's what you just make the motion for.
Did she mention what the person's standard was?
Yes.
6.5 in reading, listening, and writing and speaking would be 7.0. Is that correct, Joy?
Yes.
Okay. And we need more time to review those, or if we feel comfortable with those.
The other would be, she also would be, and you were very well versed in what we have currently, Joy, I appreciate that. In terms of what we currently use for the IELTS, we are a little bit lower in a couple areas. The board had looked at all of that and decided on that. So the HRSA standard for the OET, because it is specific to the occupational, could set it where HRSA has it. and keep that same standard. Or you could equate it more to what the IELTS is and keep that standard, because we would have those numbers as well. It makes everything 6.5, which is a little bit lower in reading because they have 7, or speaking because they have 7. And then our writing would be, we have now at 5.5 rather than the 6.5. So that would be up to you if you want to add that to your motion, if you're recommending the standard for it, or whether you want more information.
Just seems like if we're going to approve the use of it, we should approve the standard at the same time.
I agree with Karen.
I think I would suggest the HRSA standard.
Okay,
So we can amend that.
yeah, would you like to amend your motion, Michelle?
I amend the motion to include, to adopt the HRSA standards.
Second from Karen, so, okay, so we have a motion and a second, any further discussion? All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Opposed or abstention? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Joy, we appreciate that, and, oh, sorry, Debbie, were you voting in favor, or did you have a question, your hand's up?
I was voting in favor.
Just didn't want to miss if you had a question, and I didn't put the hand in time, thank you. Okay, next up is, sorry.
I just say, Joy, we are done for today. It will go to the board tomorrow for final vote. So thank you for being here.
Okay. And next up, we have the IEE request, and Susan Sanders, I believe, should be online for us, Colton.
Listen to that.
Yeah. He's saying yes, he's moving her over now.
Okay, it's page 272 for you guys. You haven't found it yet.
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, Susan, thank you for joining us. If
Thank
you
you
want
for-
to take and discuss your request.
Sure. Thank you for your time. I am working with International Education Evaluations. I am a registered nurse of many, many years and have experience in education as well as administration operations, testing, and then international credentialing. So I established the program at IEE for credentials evaluation for internationally educated nurses. So we provide the credentials evaluation for the nurse that will evaluate the comparability of their education. We will verify their license, and we will review their language testing, or if they are taught in English, then they may not need that test. So we would provide you with reports for that evaluation to see that we have done the groundwork for you. And then of course the board makes the decision if they allow authorization to test or a license for that candidate. We recently just received our United States Citizenship and Immigration Service approval to provide healthcare worker certificates, which is needed for any nurse that wants to immigrate to the United States. And there are only 3. We're the 3rd company that provides that. We had to do very similar to a self-study and submit that to the government for approval. And that actually took us 15 months for them to get through the approval, but we have it. And so now we're able to provide those healthcare worker certificates, which is very similar to the credentials eval. We do the education, the license, the language, and they also have to have passed NCLEX. So we verify that with National Council. I set the program up using National Council's recommendations for internationally educated nurses. So I feel really confident, and we do 100% quality review by a nurse on the reports.
Thank you.
Susan, one question, just because you mentioned you review for NCLEX passing as well. We do have international nurses who have not taken the NCLEX. They've come just directly from wherever they've been practicing. So we would request the report prior to them taking the test. Is that an issue?
No, that would be, we have the two separate products. The one without the NCLEX that would come to you for sure. And you decide then if they meet your criteria. We will give you all of the information in a written report that shows you what we have found. And we always do original reports from the universities and schools. So they're primary source documents that we can accept either by mail or by email, but we verify all of those.
Any additional questions from the committee?
I just have a question on where it says the IEE 395 in parentheses 5 days what's the 5 days?
That is our timetable. Once we have verified the documents, the report would be submitted within 5 days. And that's the fastest and actually the best price among all of the credentialing agencies. And we can do that because we have a really streamlined process to do that.
Any additional questions? Yes, we actually
To approve it as a evaluation tool for Kansas, yes.
I move to approve International Education Evaluations, IEE, request to be added as an approved credentials evaluation provider for internationally educated applicants seeking Kansas licensure.
I'll second, Michelle.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed or abstention? Motion carries. Susan, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. I'll look forward to hearing from the board report tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Next, we have petition to test retest. And Janelle's gonna walk us through this. It starts on page 284. I think more than anything, it was something we probably just as a committee needed to look at and see is there anything we want to review or changes? Just making sure we're familiar with this. Yes. And maybe even some questions you've received recently about petitioning. And I know it was educationally informative to me to read this and how many years can pass before and what steps nurses would have to take who have been educated before they take NCLEX. So I'll let you lead us through this.
Thank you. I think the thing I would say, I put in here, this is really just the basic petition. I had developed a frequently asked questions page, or actually just kind of altered. We had one and made one specific because people weren't finding it. It's still very difficult for some reason, even with all the specific directions for them to understand it, but that's another issue. I think the reason I brought it, there are a couple things that I've been looking at in terms of the petition. One is I'd like to get this to an electronic process. That's outside of this committee and we're working on that. But I think in the process of doing that, I'm always working to streamline the language and how it's submitted. So as it currently exists, the petition, they're required to submit the petition 30 days prior to a meeting. The petition has to include a study plan, and there's a certain number of hours. It depends on their NCLEX, the 8 areas on the NCLEX. If they're below or near, they have to submit at least 30 hours on their study plan per area that they did not meet. So some of them just choose to, or if they've never taken it and they're 3 years out and they just had never taken it, they do all 8 areas. That's just part of the plan. So they submit that study plan. There's a couple questions they have to answer. They submit a scope of practice paper because some of them, and we do have applicants to the PN that may have been an RN grad that have not been successful and decide and ask to come back into PN, and they can do that. But they have to do, that scope of practice pay becomes a really big deal for them, but they all have to do it just to make sure they understand all the regulations. And then that's what I evaluate and bring to you in terms of the summary. They have to have all those things done and submitted. Then when it comes to you, when you approve that, and you notice in the summary, it always has what conditions, and that page, 285 is where those conditions are listed. So this was something the board decided on. This has been in place for quite a while. And that at 2 to 3 years, depending on how many areas they're above or below, there are conditions added. So if they've already done a review, a formal review, NCLEX review within the last 6 months, or I think maybe it's 3 months. Last 3 months, then we wouldn't require that on the conditions. If they haven't done one in the last 3 months, then we would require that as part of their condition. When they get to 3 years, so that's at 2 years. So they're past 2 years from their graduation date, that would be the initial. Then if they get to 3 years past, then there's some additional, they have to do additional observation, clinical observation, additional study plan hours. Still do the formal review course, but then the other condition that's added is to audit nursing courses to cover the areas of the NCLEX that they have not passed. Generally, we recommend a med-surg class because it kind of covers all the areas. A lot of what I'm getting is feedback. It's very difficult, and with the changes to so many online formats, it's harder for them to find places, and not everybody. Certain places, we have programs that have been very good about allowing the audit, and sometimes it's just their ability to call and ask for what they need. But I think there is some element of that has become more difficult. Doesn't mean it's not possible, because the ones that are finishing, but I don't know, and the thing I don't know is how many don't finish because they're not able to complete that condition. There is a certain percentage, and it's in the last 5 years, I think I wrote, we have about 38% completion rate for those that are 3 to 5 years. Once they reach the 5 years from their graduation date, not just in that year, but from their graduation date, the decision of the board was they have to retake their nursing courses. And I explained to them, and I always just clarify this, it's not retaking a degree program. They already have their degree. We don't take that away. It's just that they aren't able to get that license, so we require that they retake the nursing courses. It's up to whatever program they would work with, whether they have to take any prerequisites to, if they feel like the reason they haven't been successful is maybe their AMP has been too far, maybe it was already pretty far back when they took classes. The other thing about that is it depends on how they come in. If they're a BSN that hasn't passed, they have to go back and take 2 years worth of nursing courses. Same with ADN if they're in a traditional. If it's an LPN, they just have to go back and complete the 1 year of nursing courses because they're already at the LPN level. So sometimes that makes a difference too, I think, on how they complete. So I wanted the feedback on our completion rates and I don't know that they're that different. I didn't think until right now to look at the completion rates for the 2 to 3 year versus the 3 to 5. I know it's a little bit lower just because I can tell you from the number of petitions I have that don't complete, that most of those are the 3 to 5. And not that that's a reason to change it. So it's really coming to you after some of that information. And I've most recently, it's interesting. The board president received this and sent it to me, but she also responded that we had a person who was upset because with our inclusion in the nurse license compact back in 2019, what that did to some of the retesters, we did have testers who, if they got to the 5 years, they just take their test through other state. Somebody who doesn't have the same requirements, because there are about 40 states that either don't have a time limit or don't have a number limit on the number of times they can take it. Plus, they may or may not have any remediation. So they would just go to another state,
And they may or may not pass it, but they could continue to take it as long as they wanted to. Not that they were successful, we don't have any stats on that, but what the NLC has done is you can't live in Kansas and take it in another state if they're compact, and there's now 44 compact states. So it's become a little rarer for anyone to do that. It's still possible with the remaining states if they can meet licensure requirements and they're one of the states. And there are a couple of those states that are an unlimited, untimeframed, no remediation state. So if they would take it, and this person happened to be from 2012. Thought she could go and retake the RN exam now, 15 years later or 13 years later and be okay, but it's been practicing an LPN, but the concern I think is scope of practice too. You've been practicing LPN, but not as an RN. So anyway, all of those factors, and I've had probably more in the 3 to 5, nearing the 5-year, and several in the last year. I'd say I've probably had 10 calls, requests in the last 18 months to 2 years that are, and I know that doesn't seem a lot, but compared to the number of petitions we get, and it might even be within the last 18 months that are past the 5 years. So I'm seeing more of those. They're out there a ways. So not that we need to change, I'm not advocating changing where we are in terms of the 5-year. That's all up to you, but I wanted to bring the petition conditions that have been in place and bring them to you to see if you feel like there's anything else we need to be doing. If you want me to do, I have done some review, and this is what I can do, and I apologize. I was trying to get it all together for your packet. I do have information on what all 50 states do and kind of where we fall. So if that information would be helpful before we, if you decide, or if you look at the conditions and you feel like they're appropriate, we just move forward with that. That's fine too. But I felt like from what I've been seeing, I wanted to make sure that I think for the most part, we do review things frequently enough that this hasn't been an issue, but I want to make sure we get it in front of you, kind of like our statutes, at least in a 5-year cycle, to make sure that there isn't something additional we think we need to do. With the change in testing, is there something you feel like could be different? There are some states that utilize nursing programs to advise about improvement plans or a plan for testing. So there are some other options that other people use that might be interesting for you to know. So without taking a lot more time, because I do have that statistic, but I think it's a lot to absorb too. Whether you would like some more information about that or whether you're satisfied with where this is now. So that's kind of what I'm bringing to the community.
Well, I would rather err on the side of public safety, and it's horrifying to me that there are less stringent requirements in some other states. This seems very reasonable to me. I would not, from my personal view, would not recommend that we lighten up on any of these requirements.
Okay. Okay.
Okay,
That's
so we
fine.
will leave this as is, but I do appreciate the update. Like you said, it probably does have to be on our 5-year review, just that we look at it.
And IOE will report on kind of the petition summary as well. So that's a reminder that, I will do that as well.
Yes, but I agree with Ruth, and I think the committee's all shaking their head that we leave this as is, but it was a good time for us to review it as a committee.
Appreciate that.
Janelle, thank you for letting that go.
Certainly.
Yes.
And it shows intent, like, are they willing to do the work that it takes to?
And as long as we continue to have schools that will allow them to do the audit, a concern has been, are there any other options to the audit?
Right.
So that was the only other thing that I would say probably comes up the most frequently. And currently I just tell them, no, there are places that will allow you to audit, just keep looking.
Okay. Well, thank you for your work on that and just bringing that up for us to review. Next on the agenda. The next two are regulations related to our LMHT that are up for our 5-year review. We have all of 2025 to review these, so this does not have to occur today. because we do have a very nice report from Ruth that's in the on-site packet, that has to do with the LMHT task force, looking at the regulations that are approximately 50 years old. So, I'll let Ruth, if you're okay with us moving, I know that's actually letter C under unfinished business, but it goes along. Do we want to just discuss that now? Let Ruth discuss the reporting. Okay, thank you.
I wanted to give you a brief on our task force meeting on March 6th. First of all, I want to say thank you to those that were part of the task force. We had a good representation from education stakeholders. And one of the, a valuable aspect of us meeting was Patty Palmietto did a market analysis for the viability of the LMHT role versus just on-the-job training for NHT or a certificate. And that was very revealing and yielded, it validated what we were seeing in the community market was that it costs more to hire people with a license. There are very few with a license. There are very few training centers, and so it's kind of dropped off. The LMHT role was really created for state hospitals, and there's been a drop off of demand. So most places that hire mental health techs are training their own and not paying them as well. We do have two programs in the state, WSU Tech and WSU, that started the LMHT, or a program that would lead to the LMHT in 2024. And part of the impetus for that is there's a new psychiatric hospital that's being built in South Wichita. I think it's 106 beds. Does that sound right? 100 and some beds. So that may change the market for the Wichita area. So we are not at the point, the task force has only met once. We're not at the point of making a decision. Do we recommend a certificate? Do we recommend certificate with the option of a program that can lead to the license? WSU Tech has both. They have a 2-level program. There is a need for the license in some areas. But we have yet to decide that when we meet again. And let me just read you our recommendation. We will meet again to review the 2024 LMHT Task Force recommendations because we did not get an opportunity to fully review that. And then we'll firm up our recommendations for a certificate versus a license or maybe both. And then determine if there might be a state agency which would oversee a certification, if we would recommend that. And then the last step would be to review the LMHT regulations further and then the exam. So was there any feedback from anyone?
Just as a quick reminder that if we keep the licensing program, the exam becomes important then because it does need updating. So that was part of the impetus for the task force to reconvene, what she's talking about 2024. We did have a couple sessions to talk about whether the regulations needed to be changed. So there's still all of that going on, but in discussion that has happened since then with the 2 new programs that have been approved under the current standard. But I believe those regulations are still in question, whether those are the appropriate for the level of either certification or licensure, depending on what the recommendation ends up being. So the task force wanted to address recommendations to you all about where we go. Because if it ends up being more toward the certificate level, that wouldn't be Kansas Board of Nursing purview. Right. But so then the test becomes kind of a moot point. But if licensure is what people feel like is needed in a more rigorous program, depending on how they decide with the regulations, then the exam becomes an issue and we have to come back to how does that get updated? I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Anything else we need to consider?
Any other questions or recommendations for the task force?
Just to thank you for taking.
Absolutely. That's a lot of work. Yeah. Thank you.
So we'll add follow-up and then maybe review of the two regulations to the June agenda.
Like you said, we have till December, but we'll add it to June.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for leading that, Ruth. Before we forget, we do have one other motion about the APRN programs that we probably need to discuss before we, move to unfinished business. Or I guess that actually is A under.
It is A under.
Yes, the graduate program reapproval.
When we did the approvals this is based on the annual report, when you get the annual report summary in September. The board did agree to, leave the actual approvals until December because there was a change in how we, produce the annual report for you all. And by the time it got to December and put that on there, someone forgot to double check that the APRNs, they only do their approvals every other year. And even years were it. So we are just going back to cover that base. They're all under full approval. So we would make it retroactive to the first of the year. And then it would be active for 2 years on a reapproval. That's the request.
Thank you.
I move to reapprove the graduate APRN programs on full approval status from January 1st, 25 through December 31st, 26.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, so our APRN programs are on full approval for 2 years and certificates can be sent out to the school.
And we will get them back on the schedule for
Yes.
even years.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on, to, I believe we're ready for Fort Scott Community College update, and I believe we have, members of the Fort Scott College here. And this is on page 299. Hello. Hello. I brought my support group down with me today. Thanks, Vicki. If you want to introduce everyone.
Absolutely. I'm Vicki Lader, Interim Director of Nursing at Fort Scott Community College, Vice President of Academic Affairs, Sonia Guganani, and our Interim President, Sarah Sutton.
Thank you.
And I made copies of the list of things that I have sent for updates. Would you guys like a copy?
Sure.
I think it's actually.
Is that?
I think that's
In
what
the-
I
is
did. That's what I put in
So
there.
these are my talking points.
Yes.
So
Okay.
if you want to
Thank
follow
you.
along, because there are so many, so we're not gonna get better. Well, we've been very productive.
Good.
Yeah. We're really happy to be back.
Oh, if you'd like to provide an update from the recommendations from last time, or if you want to just start through your talking point.
Okay, we did send recommendations, earlier in January or December for a January meeting. For the December meeting, sorry. Yeah. So then we've been we're continuing to work on and bring everything up to date that was recommended from our previous site visit. So just starting right off the top, we did have some policies that we completed and we did recognize that the need that these needed to be updated, although some of these weren't recommendations by the board, but we did go through them and update them. So the student testing policy in the student handbook, the faculty testing policy, student health and counseling services, nursing faculty recruitment and selection policy, nursing program orientation policy, nursing textbook policy, and faculty meeting minutes. And then under our faculty documents, faculty orientation policy, we updated that one. Faculty orientation checklist needed help there, so we definitely worked on that one. Faculty table, complete faculty handbook revision. This one's in process and it'll be completed in May. Our advisory council FSCC Nursing Advisory Board names and contact information was provided. We currently have 37 members. At our last meeting in December, we had 19 of those members present. And they've been very supportive. They offer suggestions, give ideas, just really supportive. We appreciate our advisory board members and our community members too. I did send out a letter last month to our advisory board members, kind of a save the date for the next advisory board meeting, and it's coming up in April. So we wanted to thank them for serving on our committee and invite them to the April meeting and just let them know how much we really appreciate them being right there with us. Student-related documents, the FSCC nursing packet website. We do have all of our admission paperwork on the website. It can be printed off and submitted there, so that's very convenient for our students. Qualifications for the RN licensure in Kansas and bars to licensure. That's in our admission packet on our website. Student handbook. Complete the student handbook revision. Like I said, that one's in progress right now. It will be completed and approved before our May workshop. Clinical documents, the clinical site contact person list is completed. The clinical education contacts have been signed and they're all completed. I've also added 2 more to our list since I have sent the report to you, and that's all documented. Improving student outcomes. We had a wonderful January testing workshop. Bernadette Federoff led that. She's just great. The NCSBN clinical judgment model is what she reviewed. The next generation NCLEX style questions, item writing, statistical analysis for test writing, teaching student how to take the test, integration of the CJM, the clinical judgment measurement model across the curriculum, and then clinical and didactic. And it was just so rewarding. The whole workshop was. So we're still working on this to improve our student outcomes, and we want to have that completed and a new curriculum in place by fall. So all pre-nursing and LPN students will be advised by me, the program director. We feel that this needs to be done to make sure that our students are strategically advised and have a consistent counselor and advisor. So I'll be the one advising our pre-nursing and LPN students just to make sure they're on the right path and get the classes that they need. The NCLEX pass rates for 2025 as of March. I know your paper says 2 out of 3, but we had 3 out of 3 pass so far. We had 4 graduate last year. We're still waiting on 1 to test, but as of right now, we're at 100%. So that's good. Our systematic plan of evaluation, organized by ASIN and KSBN requirements. The plan was submitted to KSBN. The ASIN Standard 5, our EPSLOs, and our program outcomes. We did submit that data in the packet that I sent to you. So that was what we sent to ASIN in January. The May workshop, we have a 2-day May workshop coming up. We're going to be reviewing program evaluation and review of data. It'll be completed utilizing the revised systematic plan of evaluation. And this is going to be an annual event for us. We want to have that worksheet or workshop in May. So curriculum change process. We're in the process of updating our curriculum. We are a concept level block curriculum. We have already approved the conceptual framework through our faculty. That's been complete and approved. The plan of study has been completed and approved. The course descriptions have been completed and approved. End of program student learning outcomes and course outcomes have been complete and they have been approved by faculty. The concepts leveling is in process right now, and we're going to complete that here pretty quickly. Completion of course syllabi is in process. The grading scale and graded weighting is in process. And we'll be back at the KSB in June meeting for approval of all the, we're going to put in a major curriculum change. So we're real excited about that. Good things coming. So with the acceptance of these items by the committee, and the KSBN board, we would like to ask permission to accept the fall 2025 class.
You guys have done so much.
It's, yes. She's been wonderful.
Impressive.
It's
Very
been a heck of a ride, but it's a good one.
Wow.
Okay. So when we made a recommendation in December, it was to hold admissions until all recommendations were in place. So I guess it's up to the committee after review of this, or any additional questions for Vicky and the team. And you guys, you were admitting twice a year, is that correct? And are you going to request going back to twice a year? I know there was discussion in December about maybe going to just a once a year. That's the plan moving
Yes.
forward with the
Yeah.
fall admission.
Yes, because we want to make our program strong and don't want to go back into the same way we were.
Some stability.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And you have done a tremendous amount of work, and we appreciate you coming
Absolutely.
every quarter and reporting to us.
It's been really fun to see the progress.
I know it's been a lot of work for you, but yes, I mean, we need to applaud your hard work and your pass rate improvements. So you've put in the effort.
Oh, thanks. Well, I have a great support system. I have a great faculty. Of course, Bernadette has been great. Judy Nelson has also been consulting us. So we just have really good support, and that helps. You know, it just really helps that all of us come together as a group to.
And we want our nursing program to be strong. We don't want to see it back in the place it was. I mean, that's hard for us, hard for our community. And just bringing it back was the main goal for us.
One of my primary concerns initially was test validity and reliability. I didn't see that there was a system in place to assure that. It sounds like we've addressed that as well.
So Bernadette, one thing that she has stressed in her workshop was making our own test questions, and she taught us how to do that, and she gave us examples. She put out several different ways to do that, and we went over the NCLEX next generation testing, and we're on a good path.
Yeah, and peer reviewing it. That's
Oh,
another.
peer review, yeah.
And that's very important, just to make sure, you know, what you wrote makes sense to the other person and how it's received, so.
Yeah.
And they did submit their new testing policy.
Right, I just feel like so.
I didn't
Yeah.
include it, but
Yeah.
they have.
I
submitted
mean,
it.
there's been all the way from the macro to the micro level, of regulatory compliance.
Yeah.
You worked so hard.
Yeah. You have a plan for continued support and mentoring, consulting from Bernadette or others?
Yes, we have,
Absolutely.
yeah, Judy's gonna stay on with us and consult with us as long as she can. And then Bernadette has agreed to help out too.
And that's what our thing was, because when we started this process of going in the positive direction, my thing was whatever support Vicky needs, because being a new administrator is, yes, you have the background, but do you know what it means to be, or the work that includes to be a new administrator? So thankfully, we had our old faculty who decided to come and mentor her, and we had Bernadette. And I told Vicky, I was like, until you feel comfortable or to the place that you don't need any support, we want to make sure you are supported. Because it's hard.
Well, and the nuts and bolts of the KSBN, I'm listening to the, you know, fourth time now, and I always hear it new. Every time I listen to it, it's like, oh, really?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's actually been a really good learning tool.
Yeah, good.
I mean, and it's good to have it there so I can go back to it over and over and over again, so.
She doesn't have to bother you to
Yeah.
every night. You can sit.
Have you hired new faculty?
Currently we have, I don't have any new faculty coming. Currently we have Jennifer Jackman has agreed to stay on with us another semester. So, we will be actively looking quickly. We'll get that on the, on our job opening board, but With switching to a once a year admit, then we won't have to have so many faculty on board. So that will help us too.
And remind, you have 2 or 3 full-time?
But I have 1 full-time and then Jennifer,
I think we have 2 full-time.
well, I'm sorry, we do have 2.
You had a new
Two
one when we
full-time.
were there.
Yeah,
She's still
Tony,
there?
yes, she did stay with us.
And I know you had some really solid returning clinical faculty.
I do have good clinical faculty, yeah. Yeah, so we brought in, a new faculty, clinical instructor this year. She's doing phenomenal. And then we have one of our part-time, faculty is also doing clinical. We have Jennifer, she's on board with us. She's considered full-time or part-time, but she is teaching full-time, so.
So, Madam Chair, I move to approve a cohort of 20 for Fort Scott Community College ADM program for fall of 2025, with a site visit to be done after completing all recommendations.
A second.
So we have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor signify with yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work.
Thank
We
you.
look forward to the continued report and a site visit.
We'll see you back in June.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Yes.
We did the LNH. So they, the KMPA regulation revision. Oh. Discuss that or move that to June. The last item on our agenda, the KMPA regulation revision.
That's for lice. I didn't know if we needed an update. Sorry, we might move that to June.
Okay.
Yeah, let's move to June.
Okay, so letter D, Stacy, if you could move that to our June. Okay. I think we're ready to list any other agenda items that we want on the June meeting. That we haven't already put on the June agenda.
I will have a, do a petition report, just an update for you. I think that's been a while since I gave you a review of that.
Okay. If no other business is coming before our committee, I think we can have a motion to adjourn. We don't even need a motion, we can just. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Colton. See you in a minute.
Yes, that was a lot of,